I started this when I was 13 years old. And I've been doing this for so long. I think a lot of people get it twisted in my true intentions of why I do what I do every single day. I want to try to change your life.
What is the most money you've won on a single bet?
Okay.
How would you spend that money?
I'm buying a home in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
What are some NFL futures for the year that you'll guarantee me money?
Ooh.
What's up? I am here on the DubClub CEO Corner. I'm joined by Bailey, the CEO of SrirachaDFS. Bailey, what's going on? It's great to have you.
What's going on, Ryan? I'm happy to be up here in NorCal. I come from Southern California, so it wasn't too long of a trip.
Yeah, not too bad. Bailey flew up this morning from SoCal, joining me in the Bay Area. We are minutes away, actually, from our new San Francisco office, the DubClub Bay Area HQ. I know my Chicago team will definitely fight me on the headquarters being in Chicago, but we're going to be up in San Francisco right next to the Giant Stadium. Bailey actually helped me pick out the office today, which I think you're feeling pretty good about, huh?
Yeah, it's a nice open space, great place for collaborators like myself to come out and have a good time.
Yeah.
It's a work.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Well, we're back here on the DubClub CEO Corner again. It is where sports cappers like Bailey open the playbook. It's where they talk about life, business, what it's like running an online content business that requires a lot of research and requires the management of a community. It's awesome to have Bailey on the show. A lot of these creators, this is their living, which we're going to talk about today. And I don't think a lot of people kind of grasp how intense that can be for them. So I'm really excited to jump into this with Bailey. And the first question I'm going to ask, which I typically get into very early on with our guests, and with Bailey, we've done an episode already. So it's going to be kind of fun to walk through this one again. But all successful entrepreneurs have an origin story, and I think it can never be told enough how you got into what you're doing now. And I think the audience would love to hear, how did you get into this? How did you start, capping sports, and why do you love sports? And, why is this your living? I asked you if you could do anything in the world, and you said, well, other than my current job? I was like, yes, other than your current job, because I know you love it. So how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so I'm 21 years old, born and raised in Southern California. I started this when I was 13 years old. And I know a lot of you guys would probably be like, how the hell did you start at 13 years old? But I want to give a quick shout out to my older brother. He's the reason why I have the platform I have today. Me and him started out 2016. It was a random idea. At the time, fantasy sports were like the main thing. Now, obviously, like a lot of things have shifted towards the prop world. But yeah, I love sports. I watch all the major sports besides golf and some of the other boring sports. But now I cover esports pretty religiously, and I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I love helping people, and I put a lot of work into it, whether you guys see it or not. And my goal is to help change people's lives, one person at a time.
And you told me when we were driving down that you were going to talk a little bit today on this podcast about your day-to-day. It sounds like you have a pretty good schedule, which I can tell you, as a CEO, it's really hard to bring calm in the chaos of the day-to-day. So how do you structure your day? And I'm sure it's evolved now that you have a little puppy.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen my Twitter recently, but I'm a new dog dad. I just got a puppy, and it's helped me kind of manage my emotions a little bit more. I think being able to leave my work inside the workspace, leave the room and come out and kind of engage with another living being and pour my emotions into that little puppy, it's helped me a lot. But a little bit of my day-to-day, I've tried to structure it a little bit more as of late. It's still in the process, of course, now with baseball and sports in general being a little bit slower. Mm-hmm. It's easier for me to find more time to do things that I enjoy doing, right? Like spending more time with my family when I can, reconnecting with friends and getting lunch with them, or going over to my parents' house during lunchtime is like a privilege, because during NBA season, it's almost impossible to leave my setup from like I would say 11 a.m. in the morning, 11 a.m. all the way up until lock time, which is about 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And being on the West Coast, as well as with esports, I'm also doing research from dinner time, almost about dinner time till about midnight. So my day is pretty much full on working. But with baseball and no football right now, it's a little easier to get things done around the house.
I think before we get into the meat of the episode, I think it's important for people to kind of understand that behind the Sriracha DFS logo, which, by the way, in this episode is the first time we've ever seen Bailey's beautiful face on camera, which you'll be seeing a lot more of very soon. And I'm extremely excited about. But behind the logo of the Sriracha DFS brand, there's a real person with, a real life, with a real dog and a girlfriend and the place that you're living. And you were telling me about how you found time to carve out for each of the things that are important for you, and it sounds like you've got that routine just about nailed down, but it also sounds like it's constantly iterating.
Yeah, I think something I gotta focus on more is making sure that I'm allotting enough time for my friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
I think I get very consumed with work, especially when I'm doing really well. And hopefully by the time you guys are watching this, I'm doing extremely well. It's football season. I'm grinding it out, but I get very invested in the work. And when I'm, succeeding and killing it, I just want to win more, work more, strive to be greater. And I get very lost in, and I don't really invest much time in my relationships. So I got to be better at figuring out how much time I can really have with my family, with my girlfriend, with my family, and friends and stuff like that. But when it comes to work, I pour 110% into it. I don't know if you guys see it. I tell you guys time and time again how many hours I really pour into it. And hopefully by this time I'll have content out and you guys will see how much time I really pour into my work. But I truly put everything I got into it, win or lose.
And that's important because, as I told you when we were driving down, you only have 100% of yourself, and you're putting 110% in, and that's legitimate because then you're operating with an energy bar that is overconsumed, and you can find ways to get that energy back. I know we talked about like going on walks with your dog, and being on the computer and in the research every day for hours at a time can be draining. But I think this is it's a good point to kick things off with the episode around like what do you really do, right? So and this is something I've learned over time as well, but you think of someone like Steve Jobs, right, with the iPhone, and you can if someone's watching this, they can look up Steve Jobs, any one of his key speeches about the iPhone or about any of the products that Apple launched. The job of the CEO of any company, whether big, small, or whatever, is to sell the vision of a product or a service. Where are we going? What value is this going to provide the world? What do the users get out of it? For you as the CEO of SrirachaDFS, let's assume I know nothing about what you do. Can you describe to me what it is that I get being in your DubClub and why I would join?
Yeah, so kind of the gist of it is I cover almost every major sport myself, from basketball, football, baseball. And the sports I don't cover, I have a great team behind me that, works with me very closely to provide the best insight. And it's people I trust,
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're also getting the esports that I would say is probably like my best realm of, profit and money making. And that comes with League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and that's for almost every region in the world that's offered on Prize Picks and Underdog, which are my two main sites that I focus on.
Yep.
But again, that's a lot to cover, especially when it's basketball season where you have basketball on the weekdays.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have like a month or two overlap with baseball and the playoffs. And then you also have football on the weekends. So it's a lot on top of esports at nighttime. So the schedule, especially fall time, is probably the most chaotic it can get.
Yep.
And that's when life gets absolutely crazy. But coming into the Discord, you have access to a ton of different sports that, let's say somebody wants to come in and they only like betting on esports. got that for you. If you like betting on basketball only, got that for you. And I have a good enough success rate in each individual sport that if you were to only tail that sport, you can still make a good amount of money, right? So I would say I'm probably the only sports capper on Twitter that can provide, this array of sports with the highest success rate possible.
What do you think most of your customers want? Do you know if most of them want esports or if they want NBA? Sense for what they find interest in?
I mean, I think at this point, the gambling community just wants anything that makes them money. Whether that's, esports, hockey, golf, tennis, whatever the case is, whichever sport it is, they just want something that makes them money. And the good thing is that when I get hot, I get really hot. So if you're a new subscriber, just try and figure out what to bet on and what sport is right for you. Just find out what I'm doing really good at the time. Tail that until it starts to burn out and hop on the next sport that I get really hot at, right? There's going to be days where I hit every single sport I bet on, and there's going to be days where I miss everything. That's
So you're a little streaky. Like we were playing basketball earlier, and it was like you could go 0 for 10, but then you can go 6 for 10 right in a row. It's like I think Steph Curry when he gets hot, he is on fire. What is it about the way that you operate that you think gets you on these streaks? Like, is it a unique system or a process that you're using in the research, or is it some luck? I mean, we talked about some of that, but what is it that gets you onto these streaks that people should be aware of when they happen?
Yeah, I think it's all about confidence. When you're really dialed in, you're locked in. You feel like you can't miss. As much as it seems like, damn, I'm the best bettor in the world, it's gonna come down to some luck.
Okay.
And I think I've learned that really quickly with the way my business has been ran over the last year or two. When I get hot, I get really hot, and I have to enjoy those moments. I have to be grateful for those moments because I know there's going to be a cold spell that could happen a day later, a week later, a month later, right? I've had months where literally I've gone 25 out of 30 days winning every single day in that month. And then there's months where I'll lose 20 out of 30 days, right? And that's gambling. And you have to realize that. And I think the most valuable lesson I learned in terms of hot and cold streaks, if you're losing $0, if you're breaking even, that is a win.
Yes.
Gambling is meant for you to lose, right? So taking the pushes, being okay with only losing like $5 today, that's a win in my book.
And I think this is a really good point that you bring up, because when you actually dig deep and ask people and you survey them, why do you bet on sports, right? Like you ask that question, 7 out of 10 people will say it's because they do it for fun. And so if you're breaking even and doing something for fun, you're winning more, right? And when you're doing it in DubClub, you're winning more together because you're with the community and with the creator. And that's what we're all about. We're about helping people win more together. It's the mission of the company. It's also the name, DubClub, kind of fitting. Yeah, exactly. Yep, it's on the back of my shirt too. Yeah, it's really interesting. The mentality that you said about being confident, having confidence. Have you watched the show Sprint on Netflix? I know you don't love track, or at least when we talked about the Olympics, you were saying you like the gymnastics, which I totally vibe with, but it's Olympic season. I'm a huge track guy, and I watched Sprint. You should watch it. I think everyone who is interested in what strength and mentality looks like. I'm going to give my guy Noah Lyles a shout out. Noah Lyles, fastest man in the world. Once you're at the top of your game and everyone's trying to bring you down, you have to have the mental fortitude of Fort Knox. Like you have to be locked down. Everyone else is prey and you're the predator. And if you watch the show Sprint, it's about Noah Lyles on his pursuit for the world championships in the 100-meter and 200-meter. I won't spoil it. You can look it up on Google. It happens. But what is awesome about Noah is that in each of the press conferences, they ask him, hey, Noah, what do you think the winning time will be? And he'll look at all his competitors, right? Because they're all up there, all 8 of the other guys that are going to race in that race with him. And he goes, whatever I run. It's just the mentality, right? It's confidence because you breathe that into your work product. And that's what he's doing. That his work product, equivalent to what you're doing with your content and your research and the plays, is he's running a 100-meter race. And it's the confidence that comes with it. So I think, I don't know, I love that point that you made, because I think everyone that's a high performer in their craft and is really good at what they do, they operate with utmost confidence. And a lot of people don't see that because it's also hard. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which you and I have talked a lot about, is the challenges that come with it, right? The mental, beat downs that you get when you're not on those streaks and luck doesn't go your way. How do how do you deal with those challenges, and how do you overcome some of the negativity that is just so rampant, especially in this category?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very hard on myself to begin with. You know, when we're losing, I'm not just taking a hit myself. I'm already hard on myself to begin with, but I'm also hearing it from almost every single person in my Discord as well, right? And that's the gambling community. They're gonna expect you to win every single day, even though it's impossible. But I just want people to realize that I don't take losses very lightly. It's not like I'm just gonna sit there and be like, oh well. Like I'm sitting there actively learning and trying to dive into where I went wrong. And if there's something where I missed in research, that's one thing. If it's something that we got really close and we ended up missing by 1 or 0.5, hey, chalk it up to the game, we move on. Like, those are true situations where I can't change anything. We got so close, 1 second, 1 millisecond even in esports changed the entire outcome of your bet. There is nothing that you can do to change, your research process. So I think also for captors who are watching this, don't change your whole process because you missed by 0.5 or 1. You're right there. And I think eventually things will start going your way. Like, for example, in July, we had an 18-0 CS2 day. And everything that hit, that shouldn't have hit, ended up hitting by 0.5 or 1. And then there's weeks like the week I'm on right now, and I've missed almost everything by 0.5 or 1, right? So what goes around comes around. It's always going to be a never-ending cycle. But I think in terms of the challenges, like you said, it's very difficult to sit there and just accept all the hate that you're getting. But I've kind of grown into just accepting it and realizing, like, hey, these people are going to forget about it the next time you cash them on a bet.
Yeah.
Right. So just take it with a grain of salt. Frustration is fine. Disrespect is another thing. But if they're frustrated, hey, just take it with a grain of salt, move on. And, there's another bet to cash in an hour or then the next day, so.
I vibe with that. You mentioned learning as one of the things that are really important is really important for you and for your iteration process. But you also said stick to your process, right? It's like you have a process, you know what works, you know what's going to potentially result in great outcomes, but you got to wait for things to fall your way. How do you marry the two of those, the wanting to learn and fix, but also knowing that you kind of have to be patient and trust the process? Because at the end of the day, most of life comes down to strategy. You got to have the right strategy, the right approach, and the rest will follow in the system.
Yeah, I think because I've been doing this for so long, this is now going to be almost my 9th year doing this.
Yeah. And you're only
21 years old, right?
Yeah.
So
He's been, looking at sporting events, predicting the outcomes, looking at research for 9 years, and just want to call out, you're not slowing down anytime soon, are you?
yeah,
Speeding up.
I think I've fallen in love with winning, and I think that's why I'm so bought in with this vision of
Winning more together. Yeah.
because I want people to win with me. But
Yes.
I've seen it all. Like, I've truly seen it all. I've seen every single outcome possible. I've studied sports that I never thought I would have been invested into. Like, baseball is something I'm so interested in right now because it's new. Kind of not new for me, but the data I'm finding now is relatively new for me, right?
Yeah.
There's so many resources out there that I've never really bought into, and I think the fact that I'm still learning something new every single day has made me become a better, right? And that's something I preach to my subscribers. I want you to become a better.
Yep.
And a lot of my subscribers know that. Like, you're not joining my Discord just to tail my plays and move on. My job is to try to educate you, try to give you the tools so that one day you're not just using my bets, but you're using my bets as a resource and as information to make your own bets.
Well, you know what is a proud moment is when you graduate one of your DubClub subscribers to be a creator capper that's using DubClub and has their own DubClub. And that's happened. There have been people who are, I don't know if you knew this, but mods or had been in your DubClub and said, I was in Racha's DubClub. I want to start my own now. I actually can name a few right off the bat that are on my head. I don't know if they'd let me. I'll tell you after. But yeah, I mean, some of our like really, really great partners who have awesome businesses learn from you, which is really cool. And that's only going to get better over time. I mean, this is the first inning. I made a post the other day, the first inning of a baseball game that has indefinite, extra innings. That's one of the fun things about this industry and building a company and building a category. It's indefinite.
Yeah. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So
No.
the people that are wishing my downfall, I'm afraid to tell you, but we got another couple of years at least.
At least couple dozen.
Maybe a couple of decades.
Speaking of longevity, are there any team members that work with you? Obviously having a great team. Call it any other sport other than really like swimming, track, some individual stuff, but like football, all the sports we watch, it's not just LeBron on the court. There's 4 other guys on there without him. So what does your team look like if you have one, or is it really just you?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to my team. There's the actual Discord side where it's a lot of people that have either built a great relationship with me over the last couple of years.
Yep.
And these guys are my mods. They work really closely with me, monitoring the chats, posting their own plays.
Mm-hmm.
A couple great guys in there that I think have really helped me improve the Discord.
Yeah.
And then there's my personal team, which I consider like my family, right? Mm-hmm. So I have my parents who have supported me through everything.
Yep.
My immediate family, and then my girlfriend. Those are like the team behind the team, right? So they help me get through the daily life. My parents make everything easier for me. My girlfriend's there for me when I lose by 1, I'm having a bad day. She's always there for me. So I got to give a big shout out to her. And then obviously, like everybody kind of puts in their effort to help me as a person, whether that's in my actual work with my Discord team, on my mods, or if that's my personal life. And I'm really appreciative of it.
I'm gonna jump into the betting section, and I like starting this section with a couple of thoughts that you and I talked about earlier. So again, I'll give a shout out to somebody on this podcast, a woman named Annie Duke. She wrote a book called Thinking in Bets. It's a really interesting book. She was a professional poker player and is now an investor. Basically, the premise is that you can only have so many inputs before a decision is made, and there is in life always going to be some variable of luck involved. And betting is the perfect example of that, because sports especially, you can think you have everything right in the research, and then something can happen with the player. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because you make more money from betting on sports than most, if not all, people that I know. What is the most money you've won on a single bet, and do you remember why you took that bet?
Okay. Singular bet due to restrictions on price tricks and stuff. It's actually from FanDuel. This was probably back in 2019. So I was, I think, a junior in high school. I was in Vegas at the time. I placed my bet because FanDuel's not legal in Vegas. So I placed my bet before I left.
Yeah.
It was an NBA bet. I remember half of the people that were in the lineup. Some guys like Domantas Sabonis, Josh Hart, Malik Monk, some of those guys.
It's incredible you still remember exactly who was in the lineup.
But anyways, I was doing it with my brother.
Yeah.
And I was in Vegas with my family. He wasn't with me, but he texted me. He was like, yo, we need one more Jokic bucket, and you're about to win life-changing money.
Yeah.
And then I checked my phone because I kind of just slipped my mind. I was like, holy shit. I think it was like a $9 entry. First wins like 40K or something. And we had 1. Yeah, I kind of remember the lineup now. Sabonis, Jokic, Malik Monk was not there. I apologize.
Okay.
Josh Hart, a couple of those guys, right?
Yeah.
It was back when Sabonis was on the Pacers, and it was like the craziest clutch by Jokic. They were playing Utah that day. He made a layup over Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the money, I was like, holy shit, like this is real, right? And that was like the moment where I knew that sports, I can make a living off of it. But the glory of winning also presented the biggest challenge for myself, and I probably would have never been in the shoes I am in now if I didn't win this contest. But how do you manage winning something like that?
What do you do next?
Yeah, and I think you can kind of transition this to the next topic, but never getting too high, because I think this is where I messed up the most, and it's probably my biggest mistake ever.
Yeah, mistake.
That I learned from.
Exactly.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is that learning making mistakes. You gotta learn from it.
Yes.
But the 40K one, it was gone in the next 7 days.
Reinvested, and the investments didn't work, right?
Yeah, you can call it that.
Yeah.
But it made me realize that money is like, it doesn't just, it'll be right in front of your face, but it can also be taken away from you just like that.
Yep.
Right. So valuing money more, and I was again like 16, 17 years old, junior in high school. I wasn't even working at the time, so that money was just like crazy to me, I bought a few Laker tickets. The rest of it went right back to the FanDuel charity.
Reinvested right into FanDuel. Yeah. It's an interesting segue too, because my next question was going to be, what do you typically spend your money on? And you're not like a super eccentric, I think is the word, or whatever. Like you seem like a pretty down to earth guy when it comes to how you spend your money. So what typically are you kind of allocating your resources on?
Yeah, man. There's nothing wrong with people. A lot of cappers like to post their chains and all that. And if that's your lifestyle, that's your lifestyle. I respect that, but it's just not me. I don't own any jewelry. I don't own any item of clothing that's over maybe $200 of my shoes. That's probably
Except, of course, this stuff.
And this is priceless, right? So
exactly.
I don't really spend a lot of money. Yeah, I don't really spend a lot of money on materialistic things.
Yeah.
A lot of it is spent on my new puppy or my girlfriend or my family.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I've spent is probably a trip to Japan last year. That was like a family trip. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so pretty casual, pretty reasonable. What's the craziest thing you've spent your winnings on? And was it in that 7-day period after the $40,000 win?
In that 7-day period, we bought 5 Laker tickets. So it was just me and my brother. So we got 10 tickets total, over the course of 5 games. I wouldn't say that was crazy or anything, but it was a little excessive. There were some games that were just worthless watching. It was just an odd year. But let me see. I can't really think of anything that was too crazy other than that.
I don't know if I asked you on the last podcast, but if you won $1 million from an insane lotto for whatever reason that you just feel like you have to make, how would you spend that money?
Well, I'm buying a home in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Nevada? Yeah, Nevada, is that lower tax?
Yeah, there's actually 0 state tax there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'll go in on that with you. I'll put up a couple $1,000.
Yeah, I'd probably purchase a home in Nevada. I really want to help my parents get more stable.
Yep.
And then just reinvest, try to build more.
How long do you think between visits to the Vegas house would it be? Would that be an every weekend thing, every month?
Probably family holidays. And then if my parents wanted to relocate out there, which I know they've been kind of thinking about.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys like Vegas?
Yeah, just the taxes is a big plus.
Yeah, California's tough.
My grandparents are kind of old, so knock on wood, but whenever the day comes where they're not here anymore, then I don't think my parents have too much of a string attached here for them to stay.
Yeah, I get that. I'm going to transition now to talk a little bit about your community that you're building, which is a fantastic one. And I'll incorporate another reference to one of my favorite CEO founders, which all of us know because we all use Amazon all the time. So Jeff Bezos, the founder, CEO of Amazon, started 30 years ago now, right? Mid-1990s. He's famously quoted saying that Amazon is the most customer-obsessed company in the world. And he says it, I kid you not, if you YouTube it, it's 100+ times he'll say this. And I'm trying to beat him in the number of times that I can say it publicly, that DubClub is the most customer-obsessed company in the world. But we have customers who we are so obsessed with, we call partners, you, right, the creator. And then they have their end users that they're obsessed with, which are also our end users by default of DubClub. I want to ask you a couple questions because I know you're very customer obsessed with your community, your end users. Can you talk to me about some of the maybe case studies or big wins that your members have shared with you? Is there anything that comes to mind as a memorable or highlighting moment? I think you mentioned the was it cancer? Yeah, that's incredible. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna share any personal details, but one of my members, let's just call him Tan, he shared with me that I think summer of last year, his daughter had been diagnosed with leukemia. And I'm just gonna give you guys a brief breakdown, but she was struggling and they were struggling financially with all the hospital bills and whatnot. And he came to me and he was like, hey, I don't know if this is smart, but I need money and I need it fast, right? And he's like, I don't want to take out a loan. It's just, I'm going to put my trust in you. And it's okay if this doesn't come through, but my wife has given me X amount of dollars to try to make X amount of dollars. And he was like, can you just help me build a plan to do this in the most safe and effective way possible? So I usually respond to some people that are kind of giving me this story, and others I can kind of tell it's kind of fabricated, but he was one of my more genuine members. So I hopped on a call with him. I broke down like, hey, this is not, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the smartest thing to do at all, right? Like, I'm so sorry your daughter's going through this, but I don't think you should be using this money on gambling. And he had straight up told me, he was like, I trust you, and there will be no hard feelings if this falls through. So I was like, all right, we'll do it. And I think this was in the midst of my like crazy run last summer where we were just going insane like every single day. It was like almost 10, 11 days straight of just wins after wins. And I think he told me he had invested like $2,000 and he was able to pay off the rest of her hospital bill for like the next 3 months or something. So now he's messaged me again, just pretty much recently, and he said like things are going pretty well. So pretty happy to hear like his situation has gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of my most memorable moments because it showed me that I can make an impact on people.
Yeah, I mean, that is extremely tangible. And that's the thing about betting on sports is it's instant feedback. Like there's very few jobs that one can have in life that gives you instant gratification. Obviously, working with your hands, like physical construction type jobs, like you can sort of hammer something and immediately the nail goes in. Similar with sales, like someone makes a sale and like cool, that's done. With something like this, sometimes like you can't actually see the work that you're putting in result in tangible outcomes for your members because they're not always so vocal about it. So it's really interesting to hear that you had this experiencing that I'm sure it was very inspiring, right? I mean, it should remind you again why you do this and why you're here to help everyone win more together with you and not just throw their money down the drain because that was really good advice you gave him is gambling in general, the probability is 95% of the time plus he's going to lose that money if he's not trusting somebody that knows what they're doing.
And I think, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's more than half of the people that actually bet on sports. I think it's 80% of people that bet on sports are profitable.
It's 97%. Yeah,
Yeah, so
that is the number. Isn't that incredible? 97 out of 100 people would start with $100 and end up with something less than 100 after a month of consistent betting. That means you are in the 3%. It's pretty incredible.
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, our resume kind of speaks for itself, but I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I think a lot of people get it twisted in my true intentions of why I do what I do every single day. And I'm not using your guys' money and blowing it off. I'm not trying to flash or be like extra with anything that I earn myself. I'm a very humble person and I want to genuinely help you guys make more money and try to change your lives, one person at a time, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, it would sound cliche if you weren't genuine. And I know you as a person and I know that you as a business person now, and it's very genuine the way that you approach your craft. And I think the thing that I want to talk about, which I think is important, it's a question in this section around your users that you suggested I ask, which is, as we look at you as a human, what is one thing that you think your members don't know about you that they would value to know?
I love this question. It's okay. I don't think you guys understand the sacrifice that I make just to get stuff or content or plays or whatever you guys want to call it out for you guys. Like my daily schedule during NBA season, wake up, get a little bit of food in my body, hit the gym. From 10 a.m. till about 4 p.m., I'm in the lab researching. And NBA is one of those sports where you can't leave your setup for 1 second because as soon as somebody gets ruled out, boom, everything gets changed, right? And NBA is one of those sports where a lot of people get ruled out every single day right before game time, and it's almost impossible to control. Then from 4 p.m. till about 6, that's my time to decompress. I'll lay down for a little bit, take a walk. But from 6 to about 9, that's when I get to spend time with my girlfriend. I get to decompress and just leave everything with work in the past for a little bit. And then here comes 9 p.m. I'm back with esports, right? And that takes me 2-3 hours to research. And I know a lot of you guys are in my Discord. You guys are on the East Coast. You guys are like, why do you post so late every single day? How come you can't post earlier? And to be quite frank with you guys, like, I'm not gonna sacrifice my time with my girlfriend, with my family, with my dog, so that I can post rushed content, rushed plays. There's no point in me. Sure, like, a lot of you guys aren't gonna be able to stay up, and that's possibly a reason why you're not signing up for the Discord, and that's completely fine.
It's their prerogative, right?
Yeah,
They can do what they want. They're missing out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm putting in the time and the research. You guys will see some of my content and time lapses where you'll literally see the sun out, and by the time the video is over, the sun's down. But I put a lot of time into it. I'm not just BSing and rushing through stuff. Like I look for every single stat possible, make sure I'm not missing anything, and I mean it's gotten me to the point where I'm at today. So I'm not going to change something that has basically gotten me this far.
Yeah, and that is what you and I talked about that I think is really important. Yeah, and that's you are not doing this for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for the right reasons, and because of that, because you're giving the advice that you give so people can win more money, you actually put a lot of pressure on yourself, which results in working very, very, very hard. But in order to relieve some of that pressure, you absolutely need to take care of yourself too. And I think a lot of people don't respect that, which is unfortunate because you can only be at the top of your game if you're actually focusing on you every once in a while and focusing on the relationships that you have, because that gives you more energy to do what you do every day. Again, I mean, it's the same thing. I relate a lot of like what our partners do in terms of their business and the pressure that they put on themselves and the pressure others put on them to athletes, right? Like you're an LA guy, you Kobe. So Kobe, the Mamba mentality. Like you ask, there's rest in peace. But you ask, or you can look at interviews with Kobe where people ask him about the fans and what the fans mean to him. And he just looks at the camera. He goes, "The fans? I mean, no one could possibly put more pressure on me than me, right? Like I hold myself to these high standards, but that can be crippling sometimes. That's hard, and a lot of people don't really respect or appreciate the fact that you're trying to take care of yourself, and that's literally 2 hours a day, man. I mean, and you told me 7 to 9 when we were in the car, so I think you're being generous. Like you work a lot harder than even you think sometimes. So 2 hours a day to take out to just pay attention to yourself, and people are on you to rush content out the door. I want people to recognize that that's not fair, and you are a human too, and you're doing a lot of work for them.
Yeah, and I don't know how many times I've been in my room. It's completely dark. It's like midnight, and I'm just basically just sitting on the floor. Like, damn, that was really mentally taxing.
Yep.
Looking at stats for like 3-4 hours after you already looked at stats for like 4 to 5 hours during the daytime. is just mentally taxing, and especially when it's not leading to results that you're happy with. And then you have to deal with people also yelling at you about it. It's just brutal. But
it's like getting kicked while you're down.
oh yeah, but at the end of the day, this is what I signed up for. This is what I'm built for.
Yes, that's the mentality you gotta have to.
Yeah, and there's nobody better at it than me.
Yes, and I can resonate with that. I mean, running a company, we're now over 25 people, and it's small, but I can't imagine what large, like. Actually, I'm good friends with the Nike CEO, John Donahoe's son, Kevin. I can't imagine what John deals with running Nike, because that's an unbelievably large and complex organization. Me with 25 people, I always come back to, like, when I'm feeling down and I feel like, man, this is really hard. It's funny because my dad tells me that. He goes, "You signed up for this. Like, you signed up to be the CEO of a company and to, like, change lives and make the world better. So look yourself in the mirror and remind yourself of that and, like, shake it off." Like, it's hard, but we signed up for this, and you just kind of have to push through it and recognize that, hey, look, I chose this. Let me go back to why I chose it. And at the moment that you lose the passion for it, you really got to second guess. But I don't think, doesn't sound like either you or me are anywhere close. And the more that we can relate with each other and others who are very like-minded, I think the more fun and more exhilarating stuff like what we're doing is going to be. For other people too, I hope it's an inspiration, because it's hard, but hard equals value. That's kind of the reality.
Yeah, and my subscribers always tell me, we pay you for a reason. We know what you're capable of. Get back to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're trying to hype you up. So that's actually a good point. So your community is awesome. I always like this question, which is, if you could buy one gift for your members, every one of your members, and money was not an object, what do you think they would want? What would you get them? Could be like a gift card or something, but what do you think would be sort of fitting? Could be as big as everyone gets a private jet and their own concierge. I mean, what do you think they would want?
Honestly, I would probably, if money wasn't an object, I'd probably all get them a house. I value my members.
Real estate.
Yeah, I value my members that highly, where I want them to be set up for the future. A lot of them are gambling their house money and their rent, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's my job to help them if that's what they're deciding to do. And I put that choice into their hands. I always advise them, hey, it's not the best thing to do, but if you're going to do it with me. Because I'll actually care. I'll actually take the extra step to make sure, like, you're not going to become homeless in the next week,
What would be the specs of the house? You got to pick like one type of house on average. So how many bedrooms, how many baths, how much square feet roughly, you think? To satisfy every member, like every member gets the same house, could be in their location of choosing, but trying to get a sense for, like, what kind of vibe do you think are these like family style members? Are these younger people? Like, what do you think is the general demographic, and what kind of house would they fit in?
For my community specifically, I think it's a lot of very hungry, young, wannabe entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So I would say like some sort of condo in the city would be nice. I think a lot of them are probably without kids right now. A lot of them seem younger.
Yep.
But for the older crowd, probably like a 2 or 3 bedroom place. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll like 2 3 bedroom condo where the younger crowd can use the extra extra bedrooms as like office space to run their gigs. Yeah. Set up the rig and hit up the monitors. So my last question in this section, and then we're going to move on because I want to make sure we're getting through this content. How would you take a losing sports bettor and turn them into a winning sports bettor?
Okay, so I think once I shifted my mentality of pushes and not losing money I used to view that as a loss, right? Like, I broke even on the day, damn, I put all that time in. Yeah, you're losing the time you invested, but you're not losing anything dollar or monetary wise, right? Yeah. Obviously the time you invested was a lot, and it kind of sucks. But I think the part that my customers don't realize is that gambling, again, is geared for you to lose, right? Not every day you're going to win. But once they learn how to properly bet, right, maximize your profit while minimizing your losses, and I have a demo video up in my Discord that I just posted recently. If you guys haven't peeped that, I definitely would watch it. It's just a way of not trying to win that $1 million lotto every day, right? There's ways to bet where you only lose, maybe if you do lose every single bet, maybe like 80% of your investment that day. right? And then when you win, you're winning 3, 4, 5 times what you put in. And there's always ways to refine, adjust, and not play the riskiest game of, hey, if I don't be perfect today, I'm losing it all. You know,
So what you're getting at, just high level, is unlock the upside, but limit the downside. Yeah, I think it's generally like a really good lesson in life. With anything you're doing, if there's potential upside, make sure it's maximized, but make sure you're not literally sometimes betting the house on it. All right, so we're going to move into the DubClub section because this is really important for me to get feedback on. And I'm going to drop another reference. And the reason why I do this section is because I find a lot of inspiration in some of the best products in the world, right? So we're recording this on a Mac. You're recording it on an iPhone, right? Apple is one of the best consumer companies. I think it's the best, possibly the best consumer company ever. And it's because their founder, Steve Jobs, who was like kind of, kicked out of the company at one point, brought back. If you don't know the story, it's actually really interesting. He had an unbelievable degree of like standard for high quality. And you and I have talked about this in terms of our product just needs to get better. One example of that with Steve Jobs in particular, which you might find interesting, he had a designer, this guy named Johnny Ive, who's like a world-class designer. And Steve Jobs was always so centered on what's best for the user. And there were meetings in Apple where the design team would show up and show Steve something, and he would look at them and say, like, no, it's not good enough. And they'd get furious because they just put in like overnight, they're grinding their butts off to get this produced. And he'd look them in the eye and he would just say, do you think this is up to the standard of what is the best in class for our users? And just like, it's not about us. It's not about you. I know you worked hard. Thank you. But is this really that good? And the reason I'm saying that is because at the end of the day, everything we do is for our users, for you guys, for your end users, making sure it's the highest quality. I want to ask you a couple questions about your honest opinion of the DubClub product because you're a user, right? And your end users also use DubClub. They're in your DubClub. Let's talk about, and our mission again is to help people win more together, right? So I want to make sure we further that. What have been the highlights of your DubClub experience from a product standpoint, do you say?
I think just seeing the progress that we've made since the first day I signed on. I don't know if you guys know this story, but when I was going through one of my historical runs in March of 2023, we had ended up crashing the DubClub site.
Yeah, I remember that. Gosh, and John remembers that too. You'll see him in a bit.
Yeah, and Dash had basically told me this story a couple of weeks ago. Dash had told me this story about how everybody was frantically trying to figure out a solution at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I think the progress of how clean and smooth the Discord integration is now, how the customers are happy. I'm seeing less of, hey, I want to cancel my subscription, or hey, I'm having issues with my subscription, to hey, how can I upgrade? So I'm seeing a lot of a shift from negative feedback in terms of, hey, I'm not satisfied, versus, hey, I'm so satisfied, how can I upgrade my subscription?
Sounds like we need to make it easier to upgrade.
Yeah, so.
Sounds like we have some functionality that Dash might have told you about that makes it easier for people to upgrade from a weekly to a monthly, something like that, or from one product to the other. Yeah, good feedback.
So definitely just happy with the progress and seeing how much time and effort has been poured in on not just your guys' end, but everybody that's involved with this vision and this mission. It's really nice to see. I think everybody really bought it.
Yeah, and again, inning one. I mean, it's good feedback, but we've got a long way to go. I mean, it feels like the progress has been at a snail's pace, so I'm glad that you've noticed. But I'm hoping that it goes from what feels like good progress to like, oh my gosh, breakneck speed. Like it feels like they are really changing the look and feel of this. Because I think there's a lot of the product that you haven't experienced yet, which is not your fault. I mean, it's not up to your standard, and we understand that, and I respect that. So I think the next question would be, what would be some of the lowlights of your DubClub experience, would you say?
I wouldn't really say any lowlights. I was going through a pretty slow period, maybe 2-3 months ago, where I would say like a lot of my subscription count kind of halved. And it was definitely discouraging for me as a capper who's always held myself to a very high standard. But I wouldn't really call that a low light. It was more, hey, you got to get your shit back together. It kind of lit a fire, under me. And I'm still working every day to get that subscriber count back up and running.
And I think that's right. I think that's what we talked about earlier in the podcast. Is just holding yourself to a really high standard, putting a lot of pressure on yourself, but also recognize you chose this. So, if your subscriber count decelerates, figure out a way to get it back. And it sounds like there was a way. You started streaming, right? Because that was what we talked about. You did some of the streams, and that generated a lot of engagement and interest because people understood, like, oh, there's a lot behind just the plays that he's putting out. This guy's smart, right? And a lot of people think that it's just content. It's like, no, this is a human being behind the content doing a lot of work. When we come back to product, there's two more questions I want to ask. The first is, what is one feature of the product that you think you couldn't live without today? If there is one.
I would definitely say the Discord integration. I'm still seeing, a couple cappers out there in the Twitter space that are still inviting people to their Discord every single time somebody sends them a payment. And I'm like, dude, that's so tedious. That was what I was doing 2 years ago. And I can't tell you how many times I've just gotten lazy and just missed out on a sale because I was too lazy to send them a Discord link. So that's something I probably couldn't live without.
Yep. What is one feature of the product that would make you more money, that you feel confident would make you more money, but we don't have it yet?
Hopefully by this time we're up and running with live streams. I think that was a huge thing that we brought up in the past couple of months. But we've definitely been doing pretty good with our progress.
I'm going to move on to another section really quick, and that's lifestyle. We talked about some of this earlier in terms of like how much pressure you put on yourself. What do you like doing? What do you like doing for fun? What relieves your stress? What kind of things help you not feel that sense of, man, like I am just so run down right now?
Yeah, I would say spending time with my family definitely helps me relieve a lot of stress.
Yeah, relationships
and friendships is huge. Puppy is always nice.
Yeah.
I've kind of gravitated away from like basketball and stuff like that because although it's a great way to relieve stress, it's also physically tiring, and I really don't have a lot of energy after like a whole day of working.
Yeah, I'm sorry I made you play basketball earlier. I didn't realize you beat me. So yeah. Yeah. Have you written any of that down as sort of the tools to grab when you feel really stressed, or you just know that, hey, one of these things I'm going to gravitate towards?
I kind of just know. When I realize I haven't seen my grandparents in a while, I just call them up. They're usually always at home. So it's nice to just make a little trip down.
I'm sure they're always super happy to hear from you. Yeah. Gosh, grandparents are the best. I'm seeing mine in a couple weeks, actually, out in Connecticut. Yeah. Let's move into football season talk, right? Actually, tonight, I know this is probably going to air in a couple weeks, but tonight the Bears play the Texans. First game of the freaking preseason. I cannot be more excited. Caleb Williams. Finally, you got Caleb Williams. He's not playing? Oh, my gosh.
Hopefully when you guys watch this, he'll be in his first regular season game.
Yeah, we'll see. So a funny thing, Riley on our team. Riley put a chat in our Slack channel. He's our social media manager. And he made a statement. He's a Chicago guy. He basically said, tonight, as the Bears kick off first game of the preseason, marks the return of the Bears dynasty. I don't know if that's believable, but we'll see if Caleb Williams can turn it around. All I can say is I'm a Stanford former football player, and I never played against Caleb Williams, but he would have beaten us for sure. I can say that with confidence. Although we did play Sam Darnold, who was pretty good, but Caleb he's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. And I don't mean to get into like an NFL podcast here, but he's like a mini Mahomes in the sense of just super athletic and kind of make throws that is like, what the hell did he just do? So I'm excited to see what he does with the Bears because they're athletic.
I guess a fun fact here, some of the DubClub founders have actually played and are still friends with Christian McCaffrey.
That's true.
So,
yeah, Christian just got married.
Yeah, you guys didn't know that.
That's a fun fact. Yeah. Christian's wedding looked awesome. I wasn't invited. We're not that close, but if he ever listens to this podcast, he is an awesome guy. Like, he's just such a good dude, and has had an unbelievable NFL career and continues to show. It's actually funny because a lot of people make a lot of money from him, right? You always bet the over in touchdowns, and he's gonna hit it every time. But unfortunately, he can't really get involved in this stuff because of NFLPA rules. But I keep in touch with him from time to time. I actually talked to him about a month and a half ago. Awesome guy. So, anyways, with NFL around the corner, let's get into a couple of NFL related questions. You made a comment earlier, which is NFL is easier to make money on than most sports. What are some NFL futures for the year that you think will guarantee me money?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Honestly, I'm not in the NFL mind yet, just because I deal with so many sports that I can't.
It's a good way to get at it.
Yeah, so I can't really give you one at the moment. I apologize.
No worries. Is there anything? I'll give you one. The Chiefs, Super Bowl. Take it. Easy. Is there anything about the NFL in terms of dynamics when betting the NFL, just systematically, not talking like futures or anything, but systematically when you're looking at the slate or trying to figure out what to put your money on for the week? Is there anything that you avoid? Any traps or any typical gotchas that you would suggest people watch out for?
I will say that I kind of gravitate away from like rushing yards and receiving yards, because a player can have a huge day, just everything's like a short pass or a quick slants, and they just don't really get a lot of downfield passes.
Yeah, like you take someone for like over 65 receiving yards and they get 11 catches for 57 yards, right? And it's like, that's a big day, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's a huge day, but everything was like outs and slants and short stuff.
I will say make sure that the fantasy score, receptions, receiving yards, they all kind of align. I found a couple of props last year.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, let's say somebody's fantasy score is like 12.
Okay.
Thought 12.
Okay.
The receptions are at 6, and the yards are at like 79.5. Right? I've seen a couple instances last year where, in reality, that'll add up to like 13.9.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So that's where I would take the value with the fantasy score, because they're not allocating for a potential touchdown.
Yeah.
Maybe a end around. Right.
Yeah. Well, they're almost actually taking into account that they'll fumble, and it's like you almost never see a receiver fumble.
Yeah. So just look for little things. I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah. What would you call that, like correlation or negative correlation? I don't know. I still don't understand negative correlation quite as much as I probably should, but
I would call that a discrepancy in a sense.
Discrepancy.
Yeah. Correlation is more of like, two teams are playing each other. Both offenses are really good. Both defenses suck. That's more like, all right, take overs for everything.
Yeah.
Because one team scored really fast, the other team will get the ball more often, stuff like that.
could you program something that identifies that for you so you don't have to do it so manually?
Yeah, there's a lot of tools out there, but I will
Do
say
you use any of them?
no. I like to use my brain.
Yeah. Look at that. Imagine it. Like, we should team up, build something that takes your brain, puts it into a betting tool. That'd be powerful. The SrirachaDFS.com.
You could actually do that one day at DubClub.
Yeah, in the future.
TBD.
Cool. Okay, so avoid dynamics where the fantasy score doesn't line up with the statistics. Guy goes over 65 rushing yards, fantasy score is 4. It's like, okay, something doesn't make sense. It's like, especially if it's Christian. It's like, all right, he's going to get reception, and he's probably going to get a touchdown. So yeah, you take the fantasy. I didn't realize you could bet on fantasy scores. Is that Price Picks? Like all the DFS apps? That's a really cool. Man, football's the best.
Yeah, they offer a lot.
That's really cool, especially if you're in a fantasy league where you guys have money on it every week. I don't know if you do that, but yeah, because then you could hedge a little bit, just in case you got some players on your team that are also on the board that look good. I know I asked about futures and you didn't bite on that one, but who do you think will win the Super Bowl this year? Who would you bet on to win the Super Bowl? Let's maybe ask it like that.
I think I gotta go with the Eagles this year.
Really?
Yeah. Random, but for some reason I think the Eagles are gonna take it.
That's just your gut.
Yeah. Weird.
Talk to me who's quarterback in the Eagles in the game. You have this vision.
Well, the thing is, I think they added in a lot of nice pieces, and um, again, I'm not really in the NFL mind yet.
Yeah. I know. You're talking a little bit, hesitant. I get it. I totally
But
get it.
I think I just really kind of like the way the Eagles play, and nothing more into it.
That's kind of how I feel about the Niners.
Oh yeah, I can't go wrong with them either.
Yeah, I just feel like the Niners are they're just a team, like not many. It sounds stupid to say, but like not many teams in the NFL play like a team, like a real team, where it just feels like everyone is truly invested in the other person and everyone's doing their job. I'd say the Chiefs are pretty close because the Chiefs don't have a ton of talent. Like, don't get me wrong, Justin Reed, I'd say best safety in the NFL, a good buddy from Stanford. But outside of like Mahomes and Kelsey, yeah, I mean, decent, but they play like a team. And I would say the Niners are kind of similar. Anyway, so speaking of football, let's move into one of my favorite parts of this, which is called the 2-minute drill. It's actually going to be more than 2 minutes, but we're going to try to figure it out. And I actually have more questions that I want to ask. I'm going to pull those up as we go through this because I think I'm working from a bit of a delayed template. So I think we're going to move into the 2-minute drill, and the 2-minute drill is going to be chopped into different sections. And some of them, this may take more than 2 minutes, but the reality is they're going to be really good questions, and I want you to answer all of them. There's 4 different categories, actually. There is Kiss, Marry, Kill. You're not supposed to look at the questions. Kiss, Marry, Kill, superlatives, choose one, and then a couple would you rather. So let's get started. They're going to be quick hitting. So I need you to hit these 4 sections, each of them for 30 seconds, and we'll get going from there. So Kiss, Marry, Kill. We'll start with rappers. Kendrick, Jay-Z, Eminem.
I'm killing Kendrick, marrying Jay-Z, and then
Kissing Eminem. Yeah. That's usually the answer. Pop music: Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande.
killing Katy, kissing
Wow, that was
Ariana, marrying Taylor.
Okay, Travis Kelce. Look out. NFL QBs: Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams.
Killing Caleb, marrying Tom, kissing Pat.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, go with the goats. I respect that. Caleb hasn't proven himself yet. All right. Superlatives: what would be your song when you cash a massive play, or what is the song you play?
Oh, I definitely play. Right now, I'm playing Tory Lanez.
Okay.
Song.
Yeah.
But in the past, a lot of Roddy Rich.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. What's the craziest thing you do for your team to win the Super Bowl? And remind me, who's your favorite team?
I don't really care with football. I try to keep it quick, but I play too many fantasy sports.
How about basketball?
Basketball for the Lakers to win another championship. I'd probably run around the neighborhood naked.
Really?
Yeah.
Do your neighbors know you? Or are you new enough in the neighborhood where it'd still be acceptable?
Oh, yeah, it'd probably be really embarrassing. But I ran around in my boxers after Rondo made a game winner versus Celtics. Yeah.
Yeah, what is a little bit of nude in the Irvine area. All right, choose one. Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron.
New York style or Chicago style pizza?
Chicago.
Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
Jeez, that was fast. Morning person or night person?
Definitely night person.
Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Crunchy.
So here's an interesting one I added. When you pay a friend, Cash App or Venmo?
Venmo.
Venmo? I'm surprised.
Cash App is for scammers.
Yeah. Who's more likely to win the next Super Bowl, the Bears or the Patriots?
Patriots.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Lewis. Lewis is going to be really mad at you for that answer. You
I
really think the
replied
Patriots?
with the Patriots just to piss Lewis off.
Yeah, it's perfect. Good. All right, so would you rather? Would you rather only be able to bet on the NBA or only be able to bet on the NFL? You have to choose one.
Ooh, NBA.
Really?
Yeah. Harder to win, but I find more joy in it.
That is a respectable answer. I was going to say I would gravitate to where I can make more money, but that good for you. Would you rather only be able to whisper or only be able to shout?
Only be able to shout.
Really? That's always a funny question. Would you rather travel 50 years in the past or 50 years in the future?
In the past.
Why?
Because I can find out everything that happened and I can bet on it.
Then you could
I'd be rich.
potentially up level your game even that much more. Would you rather be able to fly or breathe underwater?
Fly. There's too many scary things underwater.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of scary things in the air too, by the way, if you hadn't noticed. Like planes and birds.
Yeah, but at least you can see them.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a superhero or a wizard?
Superhero. Save people's lives.
Wizards save lives. Harry Potter?
I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, which my girlfriend hates, but
Okay. She doesn't like that you're a Harry Potter fan, or she likes
Harry
Harry
Potter
Potter?
person.
Yeah, oh yeah. Me and my girlfriend are huge too. Would you rather see babies dressed as animals or animals dressed as humans?
Animals dressed as humans. Imagine a bear wearing like, I don't know, like swimming shorts and a tank.
Yeah,
So-
or like suit and tie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that question. Okay, cool. Good stuff. All right, so I'm gonna end this episode with a masterclass from Bailey, SrirachaDFS himself, and ask, with the context that over 40 million Americans bet on sports every week, but 3 of 4 of those people do it for fun, as I mentioned. What advice do you have for regular casual sports bettors? And what advice do you have for people that are betting on sports more regularly, once a week, once a day, multiple times a day?
I think for people that are taking it more seriously, ask yourself this question: are you betting to pay your bills / invest, or are you betting for fun? Once you can figure out what type of bettor you want to be, that's when you can kind of gravitate towards, all right, well, I need to really invest this money. I'm putting in $1,000, $2,000 to make X amount of money. Versus if you're doing that as a hobby, you're okay with losing a couple $100, put in a couple $100 here and there. Yeah, just manage your money well. Don't think you're going to win every day.
It's great advice. And it's so true. I mean, it's such a long game we're playing. Bailey, it's been a blast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're going to do it again very, very soon. It's not too hard to get you up here. It's like a 45-minute flight from here to Irvine and vice versa. Been very, very fun. Thank you for joining the DubClub CEO Corner. DubClub, SrirachaDFS, first time SrirachaDFS is bearing the beautiful face reveal moment. Catch you all soon.
All right, we're out.